My older sister, Emily, became fixated on proving I wasn't part of our family after our father mentioned revising his estate plan, even going so far as to tamper with my DNA test by submitting her friend's saliva under my name. For context, I'm 28 and Emily is 31. We've always had an okay relationship, never super tight, but we'd chat at family events, exchange texts now and then, typical sibling stuff. Our dad runs a thriving construction company and has built up considerable wealth. Our mom passed away from cancer 8 years ago. About 6 months back, Dad started talking about updating his will. It wasn't a big deal, just standard planning for someone in their early 60s thinking about retirement and passing on their legacy. Emily and I are his only children, so we'd likely split his estate. Since that conversation, Emily's attitude toward me shifted dramatically. She went from being a regular sister to acting suspicious and almost hostile. She started dropping strange remarks about how I didn't fit in with the family or how I seemed off compared to everyone else. It started at a family dinner at Dad's place. She picked up a baby photo of me from the shelf and studied it intensely before saying, "You don't really look like Mom or Dad in this picture." I brushed it off with a laugh. Babies all look like squishy little blobs, don't they? But she pressed on, pointing out my nose, my eyes, insisting they didn't match our parents' features. It was unsettling, but Dad was in the kitchen and didn't hear. I told her she was acting odd and that kids don't always look like carbon copies of their parents. Genetics can pull traits from distant relatives, like a gray tant's cheekbones or a cousin's jawline. But Emily just gave me a skeptical stare, like I was hiding something. Her behavior escalated. At our cousin's birthday party a month ago, I caught her whispering to our aunt that she'd always had doubts about me being truly part of the family. When she noticed me listening, she didn't flinch, just shrugged and walked off. What's worse, she became obsessed with family lineage and inheritance. She started sending me articles about people uncovering shocking family secrets through DNA tests, emphasizing how science reveals the truth. Last week, she cornered me at Dad's house and asked if I'd ever questioned who my real parents were. I was stunned and demanded to know what she was implying. She doubled down, saying she'd been reflecting on our family's genetics and how I stood out as different. I tried talking to Dad about her strange behavior without getting into specifics. It sounded too crazy to explain fully. I just mentioned Emily seemed stressed and was acting weird. He agreed she'd been more intense lately, but chalked it up to work pressure. What's really unsettling is how convinced Emily seems about her theory. She's not just stirring up drama. She genuinely believes there's a hidden truth about my origins that's being kept from her. But I know for a fact I'm Dad's biological child. I've got his mannerisms, his laugh, his habit of yelling at malfunctioning gadgets. I inherited Mom's determination and her quirky double-jointed fingers. I resemble both of them in different ways. I'm starting to wonder if Emily's going through a mental health crisis. Could her fixation be tied to Dad's will revisions? Is this some delayed reaction to Mom's death? I'm at a loss here. Emily's behavior is only getting worse. She's now making comments about DNA testing and uncovering the truth in front of Dad. He laughs it off, but I can tell he's starting to sense something's wrong. Any advice would be appreciated because I'm completely out of ideas. Update 1. Emily's obsession with DNA testing and family history has taken a new turn. She's turned it into a group project. A few days after my initial post, she showed up at Dad's house with a full-blown presentation on genealogy. She brought articles on DNA analysis, family tree research, and genetic heritage, pitching it as a fun family bonding activity to build a detailed family tree using DNA results. Her pitch was polished. She'd researched testing companies, their accuracy rates, and their databases for tracing ancestry. She talked about connecting with distant relatives or uncovering our ancestors' migration stories. Dad, who's always been into family history, was immediately hooked. Emily knew exactly how to play to his interests, mentioning the possibility of linking our lineage to notable figures or discovering forgotten relatives from Europe. But here's what gave me chills. Emily insisted everyone had to participate for the project to be valid. She said the DNA comparisons needed samples from multiple generations to be meaningful, specifically stressing that Dad and I had to join since we're the direct male line. She made it sound so logical and scientific, talking about how modern DNA tests can reveal intricate details about family ties. She framed the whole thing as a heartfelt gift for Dad's upcoming birthday, a complete family tree with DNA-backed research. Dad loved the idea, saying Mom would have been thrilled, and started calling relatives to get them on board. Emily took charge, ordering test kits and coordinating with family members, insisting on personally collecting samples to ensure they were properly handled. But I see through her. This isn't about family history. Emily's trying to prove I'm not Dad's biological child. She thinks the DNA results will show I'm not genetically tied to the family. Instead of confronting me directly, she's crafted this elaborate plan to look like the devoted daughter while cornering me into participating. If I refuse, I'll look like I'm hiding something. If I call out her real motives, I'll sound paranoid. She's trapped me into going along with her scheme, hoping the results will disprove her theory once and for all. Watching Dad get excited about this project is heartbreaking. He's clueless that Emily's using his passion to undermine my place in the family. Update 2. The DNA test kits arrived at Emily's apartment since she was managing the project. She texted our family group chat that she'd distribute them so everyone could provide their samples, planning to send them to the lab as a batch. I was supposed to pick up my kit yesterday, but had to cancel due to a work crisis. I told her I'd swing by today instead, and she said she'd leave it with her roommate if she wasn't home. When I got to her place, her roommate let me in and pointed to 2 test kits on the counter. I grabbed one, but noticed it was already opened, which seemed odd since these kits are supposed to be sealed. Inside, the saliva collection tube already had liquid in it. I was baffled. The tube should have been empty for me to provide my sample. The paperwork had my name on it, though. That's when it clicked. Emily was trying to submit someone else's DNA under my name. I called her immediately, demanding an explanation. She played dumb at first, but when I described the filled tube, she laughed it off as a prank, saying she was testing if I'd notice. She claimed she'd used her own saliva and had my real kit ready. I told her tampering with DNA tests wasn't funny. Later, I called again and pressed her on whose DNA was really in the tube. After dodging, she admitted it was her friend Sarah's, a coworker I'd met briefly at Emily's parties. Sarah's unrelated to our family, so her DNA would show no connection to Dad or our relatives. When I asked why she'd do this, Emily dropped the act. She said she was protecting Dad's legacy and needed to confirm my parentage. She argued that if I was really Dad's son, I shouldn't fear taking the test properly. Her logic was nonsensical. Submitting Sarah's DNA would only prove Sarah wasn't family, not anything about me. I told her I'd order my own kit directly from the lab to ensure no tampering. Emily got mad, accusing me of ruining the family project with my paranoia. She begged me not to tell Dad, promising not to interfere with my real sample if I dropped it. I'm not dropping this. She tried to commit fraud to discredit me. I ordered my own kit today and will submit it myself to prove I'm Dad's son. Update 3. The DNA results came back, and as expected, I'm unequivocally Dad's biological child. My test, done through the lab I ordered from, showed a 50% genetic match with Dad, clear ties to our aunts and cousins, and ancestry matching our family's known history. I was relieved to have concrete proof, expecting it to end Emily's bizarre conspiracy. I showed her the results first, hoping she'd admit she was wrong. Instead, she interrogated me about the testing process, where I got the kit, how I sent it, whether the lab could have mixed up samples. I explained I'd handled everything myself, ensuring no errors. Emily then accused me of rigging the test, insisting the results couldn't be real because she was convinced I wasn't Dad's son. Her evidence. I hold my utensils differently than Dad. My laugh seems fake around family, and I try too hard to belong, which she thinks proves I know I'm an outsider. It's unhinged reasoning, twisting normal behavior into a grand conspiracy. Worse, Emily's now pushing for the entire family to retest at a different lab, claiming the first one was unreliable. She's pitching this to relatives as a way to ensure our genealogy project's accuracy, not mentioning her adoption theory or sabotage attempt. To Dad, she's framing it as thorough research, and he's on board, unaware of her real motives. I'm nervous about her coordinating the new tests after her tampering, so I'm ensuring Dad's present when I submit my sample and documenting everything. I know the new results will just confirm I'm Dad's son, but Emily seems convinced a different lab will support her theory. I'm starting to think she's developed a delusional fixation on my parentage, rejecting any evidence that contradicts her belief. I'm tempted to tell Dad everything, but I worry he'll think I'm overreacting since Emily's so good at seeming rational. My plan is to go through with the second test and let the results prove her wrong again. This has gone from frustrating to deeply troubling. Emily's behavior feels like a psychological crisis. Update 4. I told Dad the full story, and Emily is now completely out of my life. The second round of DNA tests confirmed the first. I'm Dad's biological son, with matching genetic ties to our relatives and ancestry. I hoped Emily would finally accept reality, but she doubled down, citing rare studies about lab errors and insisting both tests were flawed. She even started telling relatives, like our cousin Tom, that she believed I was adopted and Dad was being deceived. Tom, confused, called Dad to report Emily's bizarre claims. Dad called me, demanding answers. I couldn't shield Emily anymore. She'd escalated too far. I told Dad everything. Her months of accusations, her manipulation of the genealogy project, the fake DNA sample. He listened in stunned silence, then asked why Emily would think I wasn't his son. I suggested it tied to his will revisions and her fear of sharing the inheritance. Dad confronted Emily, who initially denied everything but crumbled when he brought up the sabotage and her calls to relatives. She admitted she believed I wasn't his son and was trying to protect his true legacy. Her evidence: the same flimsy observations about my behavior and vague childhood memories. Dad called her reasoning absurd and said her actions had betrayed the family. Emily broke down, insisting the tests were wrong and begging for a third round at a lab she'd control. Dad lost it, calling her delusional and saying she'd destroyed family trust. He told her he wouldn't speak to her until she sought professional help. Emily left, cut off contact with both of us, and blocked our numbers and social media. Dad asked why I hadn't told him sooner. I said I'd hoped Emily would snap out of it and didn't want to stir drama. He's glad I spoke up, as her behavior was spiraling. He's offered to pay for her therapy, but insists she acknowledge her delusion first. As for me, I'm done with Emily. She tried to erase me from my family, committed fraud, and dragged relatives into her scheme. Dad's rethinking his estate plan, hinting that trust and loyalty now weigh heavily in his decisions. Some might say I should forgive Emily if she gets help, but I can't. Her betrayal cut too deep.